Do you ever get frustrated when your team misses deadlines, blows a budget, makes a big mistake, or just doesn't deliver, even though it seems like everybody is working hard? Well, you're not alone. A lot of construction business owners hit that same wall, but what if you could stop relying on gut feelings and vague expectations or trying to find that unicorn to hire and start getting consistent results by focusing on what actually moves the needle? Hey, you're listening to the Construction Leading Edge podcast from constructionleadingedge.com, where we are all about systematizing your construction business to eliminate chaos and maximize freedom, impact, and wealth. My name is Todd DeWalt, the founder and host of Construction Leading Edge, and my team and I have helped over 400 construction companies eliminate chaos, grow their profits, and scale their business. So today on the show, we're asking the question, what if you could run your construction business like the Oakland A's ran their team in the movie Moneyball and finally start winning on purpose? In this episode, you're going to learn a few critical shifts, how to define success by behaviors, not just results, why traditional metrics and the traditional old school tactics may be keeping you stuck, how to implement a simple system that will align your team around what winning actually looks like. And we're going to dig into a surprising truth. Even high-paid professional athletes need certain structures and certain clarity in place to win. And your team is no different. So if you're ready for that, if you want to find out how to apply the Moneyball approach to your business, you can get better results and start engineering your business for success, then stick around and be sure to listen to this entire episode of the Construction Leading Edge podcast. So if you've seen the movie Moneyball with Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill, there's a scene where Brad Pitt, who is Billy Beane, he's the GM of the Oakland A's, is sitting around a table with his staff of scouts and coaches, and Jonah Hill is this kind of geeky guy sitting on one end of the table, and they're talking about players. They're thinking about who they want to draft for the upcoming season, and they're using this language like, oh, he's got a good jawline, the guy has good swagger, and I don't know about this guy because, you know, he's got having some problems off the field. And Beane interrupts, clearly frustrated. He points to Pete, who is played by Jonah Hill, and every time that he wants him to speak and every time he points at Pete, Pete says he gets on base. And Billy Beane finally broke it down and said, look, I pay you to get on base. I don't care if it's a walk. I don't care if it's a hit. He paid people to get on base. And when a scout talked about somebody, Billy Beane pointed at Pete, and Pete said, does he get on base? It was this pivotal moment where this loosey-goosey, nebulous stuff like style and swagger and had a good jawline was replaced with the substance. And baseball strategy changed forever as a result of what Billy Beane did in the Moneyball approach. This scene is all about rejecting tradition in favor of what actually drives results. So, a little bit of background on this. Since the publication of Michael Lewis's book, Moneyball, the use of statistics in baseball has revolutionized the way that baseball teams operate. Instead of relying solely on the judgment, the gut feeling of scouts and coaches, teams started to use a data-driven approach to evaluating players. And this has led to the emergence of these smaller market teams that can compete with larger, wealthier teams like the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox. In 2002, when Moneyball was set, the Oakland A's were about to change baseball forever, and hardly anybody knew it was coming. With a payroll of just $125 million, the A's were supposed to be an easy prey for the big market teams that had 3 or 4 times as high of a payroll. Instead, the A's won an astonishing 103 games, and they made it to the playoffs. And the secret weapon? How did they do it? It wasn't a star pitcher. It wasn't a home run hitting outfielder. It was data. And the story of Moneyball is the story of how Billy Beane and the Oakland A's revolutionized baseball through the power of data and analytics, ushering in an era where spreadsheets became as important as box scores. Prior to that, for over a century, baseball talent evaluation relied very heavily on scouting. These grizzled veterans would sit in the stands with their cigar and their Cracker Jacks, the prototypical, stereotypical baseball scout. They would crisscross the country looking at young players, and they would judge their potential based on intuition and observable skills. And they looked for some things that we'll talk about in just a few minutes that were very different from what Billy Beane introduced in Moneyball. Let's talk about Billy Beane, his background. He knew the limitations of traditional scouting a lot better than most because as a first-round draft pick back in 1980, Billy was supposed to be a superstar. Scouts had raved about his tools and his potential, but there was just one problem. Beane couldn't hit major league pitching. He couldn't get on base. And after bouncing around the big leagues for parts of 6 seasons, he eventually retired with a career .219 batting average. His playing career was a bust, but it taught him a really valuable lesson. Traditional scouting and statistics didn't tell the whole story and didn't actually indicate success. It was not a good indicator of success. So as the GM, the general manager of the cash-strapped Oakland A's, Beane had to find a way to compete with teams that could outspend him 3-1. So the answer he found was in data. So Beane turned to sabermetrics, the term coined by a statistician named Bill James, who was kind of a crazy guy at that time. He was viewed as a mad scientist by the baseball industry. But Bill James had started using this term sabermetrics to describe the empirical analysis of data. With the help of his assistant GM, played by Jonah Hill, Billy Beane, played by Brad Pitt, began to look at the game in a whole new way. He used the Moneyball approach. So Beane's approach didn't just change the Oakland A's, it transformed baseball. Within a few years, every team in Major League Baseball had an analytics department for the first time. In fact, the Boston Red Sox, long suffering under the curse of the Bambino, hired Bill James and won the World Series in 2004 using many of the Moneyball principles. So let's compare and contrast old school baseball to Moneyball approach. All right. In old school baseball, decisions were made on gut feel, intuition. They would look at things like he's got a sweet swing, a rocket arm, his speed on the base paths, the ever-elusive, quote, good face. Yes, apparently that was a real scouting term. They focused on a few flashy stats like home runs, stolen bases, batting average, popularity. They looked for big personalities, and they looked for big swings, right? That's the old school baseball approach. Here's the Moneyball approach. And the way I look at this is in 4 levels, all right? So level 1 was strategy. Billy Beane came up with a strategy which instead of looking at batting average or number of home runs, his strategy was get on base. Remember that scene, all he cared about was do they get on base? And in fact, he told somebody, look, I pay you to get on first base. I don't pay you to steal. I don't pay you to get thrown out at second base. I pay you to get on first base. So his strategy was 3 words, get on base. And he redefined success based around on-base percentage. So instead of batting average, they prioritized a player's ability to get on base by any means necessary. So that's the strategy, get on base. The outcome was win games, and they decided our best strategy based on data is to get on base, all right? So that's level 1, strategy, get on base. Level 2 was tactics. And the way they figured out the tactics and explained this to their players was they looked at analytics, and they showed their players which pitches to swing at based on data. There's a scene in the movie where Jonah Hill is showing a graph where the strike zone is broken down into a 3x3 grid, and he shows, look, low and away, your batting average is 165. Middle in, you're batting 365. So all you got to do is stay away from the low and away pitches. Let them go. Focus on middle in. So they looked at data and showed their players, here's the tactic. Here's what you need to focus on. Middle in, swing away, low and away, let it go. Level 3 was another tactic. Their tactic was to extend at-bats to wear down pitchers. He told his players, look, I want you to go 10 to 12 pitches per at-bat. By the 5th inning, I want their starting pitcher at 100 pitches. That was their strategy, was to wear down the starting pitchers. So this made it really clear what the players needed to focus on. He also said, look, a walk is as good as a hit. Again, we just want you to get on base. He even told his team, no bunts, no steals. I don't want you thrown out at second base. We don't want to bunt. All we want to do is get on first base. So it focused them on get on base and then gave them the tactics how to do that. So level 1 strategy, level 2 tactics, level 3 tactics, level 4 was culture. The A's aligned even people in the broadcast booth and their minor league players. They incentivized them all around this get on base. They created a culture of get on base. They got the people in the broadcast booth to talk about how well they got on base. They went to the minor league feeder programs and focused on get on base. And they rewarded players who exemplified those behaviors. So they created a culture built around get on base. Hey, it's Todd here. We'll get back to the show in a second, but real quick, what if you're leaving profit on the table because there's a crucial phase of every construction project that you're already doing, but you're just doing it too late? If you're a custom home builder, a remodeler, or a commercial GC doing over $1 million a year, here's the hard truth. You could be carrying risk way too long, leaving your profits and your company exposed unnecessarily. Maybe you're scrambling to lock in subs and materials at the last minute, dealing with profit erosion because of unexpected cost increases and scope gaps. What if there's one step that your competitors are using to boost profits on their projects that you don't even know about? Well, that crucial phase is the buyout phase. A lot of small construction businesses don't have an effective buyout process or may not even know what it is. That's why I put together the How to Buy Out a Construction Project Playbook. It's a free step-by-step guide that shows you how to structure your buyout, how to lock in pricing, secure subs, and protect your profits before you even show up on site. There's a playbook you can download, a masterclass training video, and a buyout checklist you can just download, print, and start using on every project. Think about it. Would it be a bad idea to spend a few minutes to download a playbook that could add 3, 5, or 7 points to your bottom line net profit on every project? It's a simple adjustment that you can make in a short amount of time that has a huge impact potentially. So go grab your copy now over at constructionleadingedge.com/buyout. That's constructionleadingedge.com/BUYOUT. Now, let's get back to the episode. The Moneyball approach is to identify the inputs that drive outcomes, focus on them, to identify the activities that are leading indicators of success, and then focus on them. Let me say that again. To identify the activities that are leading indicators of success, and then focus on those activities. In this case, get on base, swing at the right pitch, make the at-bats go 10 to 12 pitches. We want the starting pitcher to be at 100 pitches by the 5th inning, a walk's as good as a hit, focusing on the activities that are leading indicators of success, and then build a culture around those things. So you may be wondering, okay, this is great. That's interesting for baseball. What's the parallel? How does this apply to a construction business? Good question. Let's talk about old school construction leadership, where in many cases, decisions are just made based on gut feel. Decisions about people, decisions about projects, feedback given to people. It's very vague. It's based on gut feel. I remember when I was working as an estimator for a large commercial general contractor, I'd spent 2 weeks putting together this estimate on a commercial project. Let's say it was $3, $4, $5 million project. And it's bid day. We're tabulating the bid, putting all the numbers together, and we have all the numbers together. It's a competitive bid, so we have somebody stationed outside this building. They're going to go turn the bid in, and it's coming down to the wire, and we have all of the data. And then the vice president, Mark, walks in with about 10 minutes to go, flips through a few things, asks who else is bidding against us, and then using his gut feel, gave us the final number to write on the bid form. And I thought, so this is what it comes down to, like gut feel? When it comes to leading people, there's this vague, very vague feedback like, hey, we got to make more money. We got to be more productive. I remember on the very first job site I worked on out of college, there was this term that everybody used. Hey, man, you got to tighten up. You got to tighten up. Everybody said it. They said it to each other. Hey, better tighten up. I had a co-op who worked for me named Jason. And after a few weeks, Jason said, what do they mean, tighten up? Like, what am I supposed to do? What does that mean? I couldn't really tell him because it didn't really mean anything. We give this vague feedback and vague coaching, like tighten up, work harder, be more productive, pick up the pace. We've got to be more profitable. We've got to speed up this project. Vague things that are, in many cases, focused entirely on outcomes and results. Like, got to finish this project on budget. We need high quality. We need to be on schedule, which is good, but not super helpful. Well, I'll explain the Moneyball approach to that in just a few minutes. Another old school construction leadership approach is let's hire the most experienced people from bigger companies. We're looking for the unicorn. We're looking for somebody who just knows it all. They are the unicorn. They have lots of experience and all we need to do is hire them. This is what a lot of people believe. I just need to hire better people. And in many cases, the result of a lot of this is frustration with inconsistent results. There are people who don't seem to know what to do. They don't seem to know what to focus on. If you find that your people are focused on things that are not priorities in your mind, if you're frustrated with the results that you're seeing, it's very possible that you're utilizing some of these old school construction leadership approaches. Let's talk about the Moneyball approach in construction leadership. The Moneyball approach is to define very clear role-specific behaviors that lead to success, to specify activities that are leading indicators of success, right? Leading indicators as opposed to lagging indicators. So a lagging indicator was, for example, a few lagging indicators would be looking at the P&L on a project, looking at the schedule, the actual completion date of a project. It's all rear view mirror. It's post-mortem. Lagging indicators are saying, hey, this project finished 2 weeks over schedule. This project missed the budget. We had quality problems. The punch list on this project was a nightmare. Those are lagging indicators. The Moneyball approach is to define clear, very role-specific behaviors that lead to success, activities that are leading indicators of success. Let's take a look at some examples. Let's say you have superintendents. The majority of construction companies have some sort of superintendent or a field leader. Maybe you call them a lead carpenter, a project manager, a superintendent, a foreman. Start with the outcomes. The outcomes are you want your projects done on schedule. You want a well-informed office so that your office team has the information they need from the field. And you want well-informed clients. And you want projects that are profitable. Those are the outcomes. Now, you could just say, finish your project on schedule. You got to give us better information. Keep the client informed, and we got to be profitable. You could do that. That's old school approach. The Moneyball approach would be to say, all right, let's recognize that there are inputs that will drive these outcomes for the superintendent. So, for example, activities that are leading indicators of success for a field leader would be a 2-week look-ahead schedule, completed every Friday for every project. Daily logs entered every day by 6 p.m. that follow a certain format. And a weekly client update, sending an email to the client saying, this is what was completed this week, this is the plan for next week, and this is the information we need from you. These are inputs that will drive those outcomes. So think about it. If your field leader is doing a 2-week look-ahead schedule, if they are entering daily logs every day, complete daily logs, and they're updating the client once a week, that increases the likelihood of achieving the outcomes that you want. Projects on schedule, projects done on budget, well-informed office, well-informed clients, right? So find the inputs that drive the outcomes and then define some activities around those inputs. That is the Moneyball approach to that. Here's why you may be stuck. You may be stuck because you're only measuring performance with rear view mirror metrics. You're only looking at cost reports. You're only looking at P&L reports. You're only looking at things in the rear view mirror, and you're getting this data when it's too late to do anything with it. It's all rear view mirror. Maybe you're under the belief that you just need to hire a unicorn. You just need to hire better people who get it. There's just somebody out there, and you just need to hire a better person who's going to get it. And if I could just hire this person from a bigger company who has more experience, they're going to come in and solve all your problems. They're like this silver bullet for all of your problems. Maybe you think by telling your people to fill out daily logs and 2-week look-aheads, that feels like micromanagement. But that's not micromanagement, right? You're telling people what winning looks like, and you're giving them the tools to help them win. Maybe if you're like a lot of people, you look at your people on your team and you think, these people are just never going to change. I just need new people. That's my problem, is these people are never going to change. So I'm not even going to try it. Maybe you think, what if I train these people and they leave? Well, my question for you is, what if you don't train them and they stay and they don't leave? The Moneyball approach shows the opposite of some of these things that I just listed. It shows that you can build a system that aligns everybody, and then success becomes much more likely, maybe even inevitable. Just think about it. If everybody on your team has a well-designed plan, these are the things they need to do every day, every week, every month that will lead to success, and they are doing those things, is success almost inevitable? It's definitely much more likely. Think about this. Even high-paid athletes need structure, they need clarity, and they need alignment. They need to know what winning looks like, and they need to have the right strategy, the right tactics, and the culture to reinforce it and support it. Back in Michael Jordan's day, he was the best individual basketball player in the NBA for several years, but he didn't have any rings. Enter Phil Jackson and his triangle offense, a new strategy built around Michael Jordan, and MJ and the Bulls won several championships. So you can have the unicorn, but without the right strategy for the team, without the right strategy and the tools and the tactics to plug them into, it's less likely to be success. So think about this. Imagine every person on your team knows exactly what winning looks like. Right? You're clear on what the outcomes are, and everybody on your team knows what winning looks like. They know the activities that will lead to success. We call these the big 5 activities. Imagine that everybody in your team has a list of the big 5 activities that are leading indicators of success. And if they do these things every day, every week, every month, they will lead to success. You are measuring performance daily and weekly, and you have these leading indicators of success. You're not measuring success 2-3 months after the fact. It's more windshield, less rearview mirror. You have these things in place, and you are no longer the bottleneck. You're no longer the person who's telling everybody what to do. You're not delegating tasks. Do this, remember to do this, remember to do that. You've delegated results to people, and you've set up a system where people know what the leading indicators of success are. And your business runs more like a machine because it's built on systematic behavior. You can hold people accountable. You have metrics. You can create scoreboards, and your team knows what winning looks like. And imagine that the A players in your team are thriving in this situation. They know what winning looks like. They are getting even better. Maybe you have some B and C players who they either raise their game or they will leave on their own, and you can replace them with A players. But you have this culture of accountability where people know what winning looks like, and they're holding each other accountable. Let me give you an example of what this looks like. Back in 2012, 13, 14, I was brought in to run a company. This was a utility company, sewer rehabilitation company, and we worked for municipal clients. When I came into the company, it was not doing well, and it needed to be turned around. I figured out, all right, the outcome we need is to be profitable. We need to solve our cash flow problems, and the strategy is we're going to maximize our revenue. We self-performed most of the work. Our biggest cost was labor. The more revenue we could generate per month, the more profitable we would be because our labor cost was relatively fixed. So the strategy was maximize revenue. Here were the tactics that I used. One of the tactics was to set a daily revenue target for each crew. There were several different types of crews. Costs were different. Material costs were different. Labor costs were different. Equipment costs were different. So I set daily revenue targets per crew. This was a unit price contract, so it was pretty easy for them to do the math and know how much revenue, how much work they had put in place each day. So one crew had a daily target of $10,000 a day. This was an open cut crew. They were doing open cut work to replace sanitary sewer lines in the streets and backyards of residential neighborhoods. So this crew had a daily target, a revenue target of $10,000 a day. And we had implemented this target for a while. And Bruce, the superintendent, told me the crew had set a target. They set their own target, and they were going to try to set a record the next day. And I said, that's great. I look forward to hearing how they went. So all they had was they had the plan, they had the work that needed to be done, the work order, they knew what their daily target was, and they took it upon themselves to create their own target. So they made a plan in advance. They worked on one day, this big day where they wanted to set a record. They created the plan. I think they worked through lunch. Maybe they worked an hour or two later. And at the end of the day, compared to their $10,000 a day target, Bruce came to me and said, "You're not going to believe what these guys did." And he said they did $40,000 in one day. They 4x'd the target on their own. We didn't press them. We didn't challenge them to do it. They came up with it on their own. Now, some of you are probably thinking, yeah, but how many of those guys came to you with their hand out looking for money? None. Nobody asked for money. Nobody asked for really anything. They did it for themselves because they were A players, and A players like to put points on the board. A players like to win. So did we celebrate that? Did we give pats on the back and high fives and hell yes? Yeah, we did. Every chance we got. But they set their own target. They knew what winning looked like. They figured out a plan and they made it happen. Hey guys, Todd here. If you own a custom home building or remodeling business, let me ask you a few questions. First, how often do you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about project details, financial issues, or something else about your business and you can't go back to sleep? Are you spending more than 10 hours a week working in the business, wearing multiple hats, putting out fires, and you feel like you can't work on your business as much as you want? Number 3, do you have enough documented systems and processes, or is it all in your head? Number 4, how good is your handoff of projects from the office to the field? Are you getting hammered by the just enough to start trap, doing just enough to start? And then lastly, do you feel stuck? Do you feel like you need to grow, but you're scared to? And you don't know how to do it. Maybe it feels like you need to hire, but you're afraid to make a mistake, and you're worried you can't afford to hire somebody. Well, if any of that resonates with you, you're not alone. And if you want to make your business a source of more freedom and a source of less stress, and to systematize your construction business, and our team here at Construction Leading Edge has helped over 300 builders and remodelers systematize their business, and we can help you too. The first step is to schedule a call with my team by going to constructionleadingedge.com/apply. That's constructionleadingedge.com/APPLY, or you can send a text to this number, 877-755-2410 with the word apply. That's 877-755-2410. Just text the word apply and we'll get back to you. Now, let's get back to our episode. This reminds me of a story that Jocko Willink and Leif Babin talked about in Extreme Ownership. During the brutal Hell Week of Navy SEAL BUDS training, candidates are split up into boat crews of a handful of people. They have to race against other crews. They have to carry and paddle a heavy inflatable rubber raft. And there were a handful, like 4 or 5 boat crews. And for this particular class, boat crew 2 was dominant. They won race after race. Meanwhile, boat crew 6 consistently came in last, and they were complaining and whining. So the leader of boat crew 6 was making excuses, complaining to his instructors that his crew was simply not as good as the others. Like, I can't win with these guys, blah, blah, blah. His team, mirroring his bad attitude, was frustrated, fractured, and they blamed each other. So in a test of leadership, a senior instructor made the 2 boat captains switch teams. So the new leader of the losing crew took immediate ownership of the situation. The guy who was leading the winning boat was now with a bunch of what were supposed to be losers. And instead of yelling at his new crew, the new leader began to identify the smaller, simpler problems. He broke down the overwhelming task of winning the entire race into small, achievable, and understandable actions. He provided a simple plan and communicated it effectively to his exhausted and demoralized crew. What he did was he said, all right, we're going to paddle as hard as we can to get to this buoy. All right, now let's beat these guys to the next buoy, to the next turn. He broke it down into small, achievable, and understandable actions, and then gave a clear, simple plan. What was the outcome? Eventually, the culture and the performance of the boat crews were flipped, and Boat Crew 6, with its new leadership and a clear plan, began to win consistently. Boat Crew 2, under the old negative leadership, now struggled to perform. The story demonstrates the principles of what are called prioritize and execute in extreme ownership. So when you're faced with a monumental problem like winning a race after constant defeat, or finishing a tough project on schedule, finishing a project profitably, a leader must do a couple of things. Evaluate the problem, calmly assess what the highest priority issue is. For the new boat captain, this was not the race itself, but his team's lack of unity and morale. So step one is to evaluate the problem. Step two is lay out a simple plan. Simplify the process for your team. Instead of win the race, he gave them very clear sequential steps to take, focusing their efforts on one immediate task at a time. So if you want to help your team find another gear, this is what the Moneyball approach to leadership is about. It's about evaluating the problem, breaking things down, giving your team a very simple plan that they can follow. That's my challenge for you, is to employ this Moneyball approach to leadership. I've done it. The team I led, I saw it over and over again. When people know what winning looks like, they want to put points on the board. You have a few options at this point. If you're still listening to this, you have really three options. If you're thinking, I need to do this in my business, we should do this, I'm dealing with those problems Todd's talking about, and I want those results Todd has talked about. This is what I want for my team. You have three options, okay? So number one is you can just hit stop or pause and go to the next podcast episode or go to the next video, and you can do nothing with this information. You can go back to being frustrated with your team's performance every month, saying, yeah, we almost did it. We almost achieved our goals. You could have another 12 months from now, you can look back on another year of almost achieving your goals, almost achieving your financial targets, almost being able to have the business that you want. That's option number one. Option number two is you can DIY it. You can say, yes, we're going to do something about it. I'm going to DIY it. You could try building all of this stuff out yourself through trial and error, listening to podcasts, reading books, creating these concepts, trying to reinvent the wheel, and then hope that it works. That's option two. Option three is find a proven system that gives you the results you're looking for. If you want a cell phone, you have a couple of options. One, you could create your own phone and take months or years and try to figure it out through trial and error, spend all the time and energy to create a phone, or you can just go buy a phone. Find a proven system that gives you the results you're looking for. If you need financial software to be able to do your books, you can create your own software, or you can just go find software. That's the proven system. So those are your three options: do nothing, DIY it, or find a proven system that gets you the results you're looking for. So if you're looking for a proven system, then I'd like to invite you to learn more about our Systematize Your Construction Business program. And in that program, a few of the things that we're going to help install in your business is the Big Five formula. We will help you create the Big Five for each role on your team. These are the Big Five activities that are the leading indicators of success. We'll also help you design your strategic blueprint for your business. This is a blueprint for your business in the future of what you want your business to look like 2 years in the future, and help you create clearly defined roles and responsibilities for your team. You would never start a project without a blueprint, right? It's the same way with your business. You should never grow your business or attempt to grow your business without a strategic blueprint. And then the third part is implementation coaching. You don't just need information, you need support, you need accountability, you need implementation coaching to help you when you get stuck, to provide the accountability so these things actually show up in your business. So let me ask you something. How long have you been thinking about putting systems and processes in your business? How long have you been thinking about dialing in roles and responsibilities? How long have you been saying, you know what, I should have more freedom by now. I should have more profit. I should have less stress, but I'm so slammed, I just don't even know where to start. You're just overwhelmed. Think about this. How much is the cost of inaction? How much is it costing you to not have these systems and processes in place? There's the direct financial cost of profit bleeds, like rework and schedule delays and giveaways. And there's missed opportunities. How much more work could you go out and sell if you weren't so busy putting out fires and dealing with low rent tasks? What's the impact? What's the cost to your health and your stress? How much sleep are you losing because of it? And then what about your family? What's the price that your family is paying because of your business? What are you concerned might happen if nothing changes? If things continue on this path and the frustration and the friction, maybe even chaos continues, what will be the effect on your reputation with clients? Maybe you get a lot of your work through word of mouth and referrals. Are you concerned that might diminish if things don't get better? Are you concerned about losing a key employee who just gets stressed out and fed up and decides to go somewhere else? You know you need this. You've been thinking about it for months. You've been talking about it. Every time there's a mistake, you think something like, man, we could have prevented this if we just had the right systems in place. Maybe your team is asking for it. They're saying, hey, can we do something about this? But you just don't have time to figure it all out for yourself. So if you own a construction business that specializes in custom home building, remodeling, or commercial general contracting, if you're the business owner or one of the owners, and you're doing at least $2 million in annual revenue, if you're stuck in the day-to-day, you can't take a real vacation, you feel like you own a job instead of a business, then this is for you. I'm looking for 5 business owners this month to help systematize your business in 8 weeks so the team runs the projects and you get your time and your freedom back. If our program is not a fit, then I'm going to tell you that really fast, and we're going to point you to the right next step. This is not for everybody. We only work with a small group of people at a time. Just to be transparent, there's a pretty good chance it's not a fit. But if you would like to work with us, if you want to be one of those 5 construction business owners that we help over the next 30 days to get started systematizing your business, if you want to have your business systematized in the next 8 weeks, then go to the link in the show notes, or go to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, APPLY, and book your call now. We're only opening 5 spots a month, so if you want to get off the hamster wheel, if you want to have the business that runs without you and supports your ideal lifestyle, then go to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, or click the link in the show notes, and let's talk soon. Hey, before you go, if you're a custom builder, remodeler, or commercial GC doing over $1 million a year, what if you're missing one crucial step that could protect your margins before you even break ground? That's why I put together the free How to Buy Out a Construction Project Playbook. It's going to show you how to lock in costs, secure your subs, and protect your profit before jobs start. Would it be a bad idea to spend a few minutes to download a playbook that could add 3 to 7 points of net profit to your bottom line on every project? You can go get your copy of that playbook and that training for free at constructionleadingedge.com/buyout. There's no guarantees how long this will be free. It's available now for a limited time. That's constructionleadingedge.com/buyout, BUYOUT.